Well, welcome back to our beginner's guide to SimCity, having a successful start to your city and your cities. As we wrapped up our initial set of episodes in which we got a basic city up and running, during the wrap up, we were talking about next steps. And I was asking for your feedback on what direction that we want to go in, and it was overwhelming that a lot of viewers said, "Hey, let's talk about Omega." So that's what I want to do. Now let's move on. Let's transition to having a discussion about Omega and how to have a successful start with the Omega Co specialization. We've got ourselves a initial city in which we can send funds to other cities. We went through how to do that in the last episode. But what I want to do is I want to get started with a new city and a new topic. So we're going to be moving on from how to have a successful start to how to work on and have a good start with Omega. So the most important thing to keep in mind is when you're working on a specialization, no matter what that specialization is, it's so important that you have a good foundational city set up. So before you jump into Omega, before you were to jump into any, if you think about our city over here, we had a city up and running before we really got into drilling for oil. Same thing with Omega. There's no need of you sitting through the creation of a basic city. So through editing, I will go ahead, have a city up and running, and then we will start talking about Omega. So now that we've got ourselves a basic city up and running, let's talk about Omega. If you were to say, hey, what is Omega? I couldn't tell you. All I know is that once you introduce the Omega Co Corporation into your city and your game, Omega Co is going to take crude oil and raw ore and create Omega. They leave it vague what it is. I don't know if it's a liquid, a solid, a gas, but what happens is once you start to introduce Omega to your city and to your residents, they can't get enough of it. So it's all about taking crude oil, raw ore, and turning it into Omega. As we start to work with Omega, let's introduce a couple of more data tabs that we haven't used. Now, of course, we have been using, this is going to be important, we have been using the trade map, the trade data tool. But in addition to trade, we're also going to be using the Omega data tab, and we're also going to be using the Omega tab itself, bottom right, to get information on Omega Co franchises, and we'll talk about that in more detail. So you need oil and ore. You can get it in a variety of ways. Of course, if you've got oil and ore underground, wonderful. You can extract it. The one thing that I want to caution you on is we all know that the city maps are small. So the more space that you're using to pull up ore and oil, that's space that you don't have for your Omega Co. This city over here is drilling oil, so we could gift oil to this city. That's always an option. Or you can go to another city plot and get it. Or you can, once again, get it from underground of this city, or you can import it. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to be focusing on importing my oil and my ore. That's the way that I like to do it, but you're more than welcome to experiment with different ways of getting your oil and your ore in. Just remember, you just don't have a lot of space. So if you're trying to extract it from the ground, either with non-futurized ways, so as these, or you're trying to extract it from the ground using some futurized methods, that's completely up to you, but just know it's going to take up a lot more space. in your city. So let's get started. I want to import what I need. So it's always a good idea to go ahead and start getting that set up before you put down the Omega Co factory, because it's just going to complain that it doesn't have what it needs. So let's place a trade depot. I do not need that. Let's place a sign. I am going to put down one more delivery truck. We may need more. Now remember, we need oil and we need ore. So let's put down oil. Let's put down ore. Let's import the oil. Let's import ore. And then once we've got that set up, then we can continue on with our Omega Co factories. Excellent. We now have trade depot with both oil and ore. Let's start the process. Let's put down our first Omega Co factory. You want to be close to your industrial area. Let's get an Omega Co factory. Let's place it. Now, the standard Omega Co factory that we just placed is going to have an Omega production line. We can unlock other production lines, such as the drone assembly line, but for right now, what we're focused on is Omega production. You can also see we have a global market VTOL pad. We have an extraction pod, and we have extraction pod pipeline. These allow you to extract the resources that you need from underground in your existing city. So that's a futurized way of getting your resources. As I've talked about, it does take up space. So that's the reason why I like to import my resources. But feel free to experiment, have fun, play around with the different ways of providing the oil and the ore to your city and to your factory. All right, our Omega Co, our first factory is working, it's operational. It's just waiting for what it needs. It says we need ore. So those items will be delivered. Here comes a delivery of oil. We now have oil, we have ore. So now we get the purple smoke and we have a factory that is producing Omega. So that is the first step of Omega production, is putting down an Omega Co factory, putting down Omega production lines, getting your purple smoke going, and producing Omega. Now that we have produced our first batch of Omega, you will see we've got some delivery trucks that are on their way to the industrial area. These delivery trucks will start delivering Omega, and you can see the brownish bar here. Omega is being delivered to our industrial buildings. As more and more Omega gets delivered to an industrial building, you will see the building itself changes color to more of this burgundy rust color. What is happening is this industrial building is now turning into an Omega Co franchise, and our city is now making a franchise profit. So as you can see, we have more and more industrial buildings that are accepting freight of Omega, becoming Omega franchises. So step one, Omega Co factory producing Omega. Step two, the delivery trucks going out to your industrial buildings and starting to turn them into franchises. The industrial buildings will take the Omega that they have received, and then you will start to see shipments go from industrial buildings to commercial buildings. As the commercial buildings start to accept, they will become franchises. So this building has not received enough Omega, whereas this building is receiving Omega but has not received enough to become a franchise. But the neighboring buildings have become Omega franchises. To check on your progress as far as just how many of my buildings, you click on the Omega tab and you can look, you can see 45% of our industrial buildings are Omega Co franchises, 32% of our commercial buildings are Omega franchises, and our profit is a healthy 15,968 simoleons an hour. So if you look here, if you look at what I am spending on an Omega Co factory per hour compared to what I'm making, and we also have to take into effect what we're importing, that's important as well. But it's still, if you look at what we're spending to import compared to what we are bringing in, there is profit to be made, and we have not nearly saturated even the industrial buildings. If your city, now this city we sent some financial funds to help out. One thing that you can always do to kind of stem that flow of imports coming in constantly, you can always go and you can use locally just for a while, because we've got plenty of resources here. So now we will not be getting any imports for a while. That'll give you a little bit of a financial break, but you will still be producing Omega. Naturally, the industrial buildings that are closest to the Omega factory are going to get the Omega shipments compared to the industrial buildings further away. It is highly doubtful that that one Omega factory is going to be sufficient to get Omega to all of my industrial buildings. You can look at how many jobs you have available, and you can make the decision as to whether or not you want to put an Omega factory in the footprint of some of your industrial buildings, because you do want to make sure that you've got the workforce to handle. So we're going to do another Omega Co factory, and I'm going to place it here. We're going to do more Omega production lines. Now, we know that we're not going to have enough resources. I'm going to go ahead and set this back to import. We've given ourselves just a little bit of a financial breather just to make a bit more profit. And eventually, this will hire, it will get the resources it needs, and we'll start to see the purple smoke from this factory as well. You can always monitor your shipments. If they seem to be going slow, that may be a sign that you need another delivery truck, because now we're sending deliveries to not just one, but 2 Omega Co factories. We now have all of the resources we need at our second Omega factory. We are producing Omega, and there's our purple smoke. So now that this factory is closer to these industrial buildings, we should get closer to full coverage of Omega to all of our industrial area. This is the point where you may realize that one trade depot is just not going to be sufficient. So this is where you may want to start thinking about adding on. From a financial standpoint, you can start out conservative with maybe one oil lot, one ore lot. Import those, or your city may be to the point where it's making a very healthy profit and you can max out your lots. But at this point is where you're going to start to realize I need more ore and oil being brought into the city. The Omega factories go through the resources pretty quick. This is the perfect time to point out another aspect. Your trade depots and then consequently your processor factories for producing Omega Co, and then your industrial areas and your commercial areas are dependent upon a steady influx of the resources that you need. Even if you are drilling or mining this out of the ground, it's really important that you've got good traffic flow and that your vehicles, your delivery trucks, are not stuck in traffic jams. So just like other aspects of designing a city, I talk about how this is really about traffic management. This is a traffic management game, and this is one illustration that highlights that fact. It's so important that you've got good traffic flow in and out of your city. At some point, your progress will allow you to unlock the Omega Co headquarters. So let's place the Omega Co headquarters. The Omega Co headquarters allows us to get more into the market, allows us more advanced items for mining and for drones. Let's upgrade. Now, we've got some options. We can upgrade again. We've got some options. We have the robotics division. We have the extraction division. And we have the commerce division. It depends on what direction that you're going into, what it is that you want to do with your city. Do you want to unlock all three? The extraction division allows you to use futuristic methods of getting product resources out of the ground. I rarely use the extraction division because I am importing what I need, and we're already running out of real estate in this city. So that's the reason why I do not use the extraction division hardly at all. I do like the commerce division. The commerce division will allow us to take advantage of getting global market deliveries via the VTOL. But most importantly is the robotics division. And the reason why the robotics division is important, if you look, we are now at 94% of our industrial area as Omega Co franchises, 82% of our commercial area as a franchise. Look at our profit, but look at residential, zero. None of the Omega has made it to any of our residential locations. The reason for that being is the current setup, the deliveries. Delivery trucks will take the Omega. You can get delivery trucks taking our resources to Omega co-factories. Delivery trucks will take the Omega from the factories to our industrial area. Delivery trucks will take Omega from the industrial area to commercial. You cannot get Omega from commercial to residential via commercial delivery trucks. You now need to use another method, and the only method of getting Omega to your residence is by the use of drones. So for that reason, what I want to do is let's go ahead and let's put down the robotics division. And that has allowed us to unlock another production line. Let's place this here. Now it comes with the Omega production. We no longer need that for this factory. I want to get rid of that. And you can mix and match. You can do both with one factory. But now what I want is I want drone assembly lines. So, in order to create drones, now for Omega, I needed oil and ore. For drones, I need processors. So this is one of the big reasons why when I talk about getting started with a specialization, processors are not inexpensive. That's why I consider Omega to be a mid-level specialization. Of course, you can start with Omega and get it to your industrial areas and your commercial areas, get up enough money, and then get into processors and drones. That's completely fine. You do not want to get too expensive too soon. So let's do this. We are only going to put down one lot because each import is going to be 100,000 simoleons. So let's import. And now we're bringing in processors. If you are playing with multiple cities, let's go to our first city. And let's say our first city, we were extracting oil, or we were extracting ore. We were extracting both oil, ore. Let's in this city we've got oil, we've also got processors. We can click on region view. We can say I want to send a gift to that city. We can click on gift. And we have a variety of the things in this city. We can click on crude oil and we can say how many barrels of crude oil we want to send to that city. We are also creating processors in this city. We don't have a lot of them because they're being used, but we can say that we want to send some. As of right now, we do not have a surplus of processors. But that's one way of going about it to save some space and some real estate. you can have a city that is pulling up the resources that you need and send it to the city that's in need of that same resource. We just received processors, and now we can start the process of creating drones. Look, we are getting our first set of drones. So this is an Omega Co buy drone. Once it comes out of the Omega Co factory, its goal, its purpose is to go to a residential location. So the residents do not have to leave their home to shop for Omega. It's going to go into a house and it's going to start placing orders for Omega. As the house gets Omega delivered, and if it's being delivered from a commercial building that's already a franchise, then now the home also becomes a subscriber. It's a member of Omega Co. Once it gets enough Omega from an Omega franchise commercial location, it will become a gold subscriber member. So at some point, some of these houses will turn gold. Here is something that can sneak up on you. Drones do not last forever. If you have been playing SimCity and you've not had any issues with your garbage, you've just kind of set it up and forgotten it, just know those drones are really going to start to fill up your garbage. So if I were going to be playing this city for an extended time frame, I would have more than one garbage dump set up. I would also be thinking about a lot more incinerator plants, but I just want to point that out as a potential issue that could show up if and be unexpected if you were not prepared for it. Because of the proximity to the factories and to other commercial locations, the mega tower, because it has residents in it, the mega tower itself has become a franchise or a subscriber of Omega. So the mega tower in and of itself, if the residents are happy, generates a profit. Now that we just finished a level, so now the mega tower has to go back to generating more Omega. That's the reason why it changes color. So if you add on levels, your mega tower will change color back because this new apartment is not receiving Omega yet because nobody's moved in. So don't worry if you're adding levels and your Omega tower, your mega tower suddenly switches from that dark burgundy rust color back to this color. It will switch back once the residents move in and they start getting Omega deliveries. Let's add on. We can add another division. The division that I want to add that's also quite helpful is the commerce division. So let's do the commerce division. What I like about the commerce division is, yes, you can get into trade ports, but really the good thing about the commerce division is it allows us to get into using VTOLs, vertical takeoff and landing. So we can place one of these down And let's say we were having some traffic issues. We could get our processors delivered directly to the factory. Or we could get our oil and ore delivered directly to the Omega Co factory. So that's one way of getting your deliveries to your factories and not being dependent on your roads. You do want to keep an eye on it because those deliveries will keep coming and it could get you into financial difficulty. All you have to do is just monitor it. But that's one reason why I like using the commerce division is once a city, because this is still an extremely young city, but I've got some cities where I'm well over 100,000 residents. Traffic starts to build up. I'm doing well with oil and ore, but I'm having some challenges with getting processors to my uh, Omega factory, or I'm having a challenge with getting oil. I can place down a VTOL and circumvent, bypass the need for road traffic. We have two houses that have placed an order for Omega. The drone went to a commercial location that was already an Omega franchise, delivered it, and so what happens is the household become Omega Gold members, and you can see the profit from a gold member home starts to increase as well. So Omega, whether it's industrial, commercial, residential, all three, as you start to turn your industrial and your commercial buildings into franchises, and as you start to turn your residentials into subscribers, that is more profit for your city. When we click on the Omega tab, 91% of our industrial area is an Omega franchise. Commercial is 83%. Residential is only 14%. Just like we had to place down an additional Omega factory to get that coverage for industry and then therefore commercial, we're going to need to do the same thing for the Omega drone factory. But our profits are now at nearly 44,000 simoleons an hour, and I don't think our mega tower has converted back to being, yeah. So even then, we're still not at the max of what our profit will be. Once this mega tower converts back to being a subscriber, our profits will continue to climb. But this is the perfect opportunity to put down another Omega processor drone. So this time we will get the deliveries brought in via VTOL. And let's place one VTOL. There is a delivery being made. And away it goes. All right, let's address some things. We have a power shortage. Omega factories require a good amount of electricity. So let's upgrade our power production. Omega factories bring on lots of job opportunities. So you will notice that you're going to see a lot of available jobs, especially low wealth. Omega, people love Omega. but Omega is not the healthiest. So you will have some health issues. Speaking of health issues, let's talk about some benefits of the drones. Let's extend this road a bit. The reason why I've placed these, let's start with fire. There is a fire drone hangar. Let's go to hospital. There is a meta drone hangar. Let's go to police, and let's place the law drone hangar. The drones that are being produced, yes, a lot of them are going to go to homes, but some of the drones will leave the factory and they will go either to a law hangar, a health hangar, or a fire hangar, and they will become drones that fight fires, help heal individuals, or fight crime. The drones seem to do a better job of going into your mega towers. And because they're flying through the air, you don't have to worry as much about traffic with your drones. Now that we have unlocked drones in the other city, if for some reason this city, our original city, was having some challenges, we can place down an Omega Co factory here. Let's get rid of that. We could put down the drone assembly. We could create some drones. We could even have processors flown in. And what if this city was having health issues? We could place a hospital right next to it. Place down this. And then as the drones leave this factory, they will go here. And now we're offering drone health protection to our original city. Now, in addition to providing drone health coverage for the city, the drones are not only going to be out doing that, the drones are also going to be fulfilling Omega orders. Now, Omega's not being produced in this city, so they have to go and get it. But still, we have ourselves a home that has put in enough orders where this home is an Omega subscriber and therefore is providing extra profit to the city. So the drones will get produced, they will go out, they will gradually, because this is not nearly as full scale as the other city, but it is providing for the opportunity to purchase Omega. In addition to the primary focus was creating health drones. If we wanted to convert more of the city to Omega, we can put down more. Whoops. We can put down more drone lots and create more drones and get more coverage of Omega in this city. And of course, if we wanted fire coverage, police coverage, we could put down those buildings and add the drone hangar for that particular type of building. back to our Omega City, we'll see that we've got good coverage now. It looks like a lot more of our residential homes have become gold subscriber members. Looks like we have a lot of drones in the mega tower. Looks like this street is literally covered with drones. And it's up to you to decide to what level you want to do your Omega coverage. We are currently at 82% industrial, 67% commercial, 44% residential. Our profit, we are at 74,000 simoleons an hour, and we're only 55% total coverage because the drones, the Omega, only goes so far from the factories. You would need to put down more in order to get here. As you can see, it's very obvious how it flows, the influence. So we would need to put down more Omega factories for processors and drones in order to get here. So I see a perfect spot for that. We should have enough processors. We should be okay with processors. We may run into an issue, but we'll find out. I find that it's easier to keep track of my processors this way. I have turned off, at least I think I've turned off the VTOL. Yes. And I don't think we had the VTOL going here. That constant flow, yeah, no veto. That constant flow of processors, you can get a little bit of out of control financially. Seems like I have more control over it when the trucks bring it in, because we may not have a ton of them, but we've got enough processors. If I needed to add another lot, fine. But as you can see, these two factories are full. We've got enough here that when this factory opens up, we should be okay as far as processors are concerned. That extra Omega drone factory has made a difference. We are getting drones and deliveries down towards the far end of the city. We've also added one more Omega factory. Our Mega Tower has now converted back to being a subscriber. So not only is the Mega Tower itself adding to our profit, but the Omega profits, we've got more residential buildings that have gone gold member. So the city, let's take a look and see. 97% of industrial, 59% commercial, 68% residential, 82,000 simoleon profit per hour, and we're at 70% coverage for the city. So the earnings opportunity is definitely there. It's definitely pretty high earning potential. It's really up to what you want to do as far as just how much Omega. In my opinion, this city is doing extremely considering that all we're doing is importing, we are not producing anything that's going out of the city. Yes, our neighbor is taking some of our omega, but really what we are generating, the profit we're generating within our own city, if you will. So tax income, the income from the mega tower, but mostly the income from omega. And even when you factor in just how much we are spending, because we're spending a lot of simoleons on imports, but it's being outweighed heavily by what we're generating from franchise and subscriber fees. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. The process is, let's recap, and of course, you're never going to completely make the simulation happy. The advisor is saying, "Hey, we come on, let's do more," and that's really up to you if you want to do more. But I'm happy that that's really why this is yellow, is they want to do more. For the most part, our main dashboard is clean. We get a few notifications about zones here and there, but that's doing well. Of course, everybody, we're going to have lots of sick individuals, so don't feel like you're doing something wrong if you have lots of sick. Omega doesn't seem to impact crime. It doesn't seem to have a big impact on fire, but it does impact the health of your residents. But that's pretty much it. So recapping, you get your product in, your ore and your oil, however way you want to do it, whether you're getting it from the ground of that particular city or sending it from another city here, or extracting it either with non-future methods or future methods, or getting it imported. You take those, you create your Omega factory, start creating some Omega, get it sent out to your industrial areas. Try to get as much coverage as possible. Your industrial area, the delivery trucks will go and start delivering Omega to your commercial locations. Once they get enough deliveries, your commercial buildings, just like your industrial buildings, will convert into franchises. At some point, you will unlock the headquarters. We have another upgrade. You can place down different divisions. Your third step, if you're wanting to get the Omega to your residents, the third step is you now have to start specializing in drones. So then you would put down an Omega factory, but instead of creating Omega, you're creating drones. And the drones start delivering, making orders at your residential locations. And if they get to the point where they are doing enough orders, they become gold members. And all of this is meaning, whether it's a franchise, industry, franchise, commercial, or subscriber, residential, is you are generating franchise profit or subscriber profit for your city. And this city is making a profit similar to what you would find if we were exporting processors, or doing oil or smelting or entertainment, gambling, an amusement park. Similar type of profit. But those are your steps. Most importantly, have a stable, good foundational city set up first, and then start the process. But that's really Omega, Omega Co, and how that works in a nutshell. I hope this has been helpful. If we were to do the other city, the existing city, same process. Nothing would really change. So we already have an existing city, our tutorial city. So my original thinking, one of the reasons why I left this space open was you would start to put down some Omega factories. We already have the oil. We would just start using the oil locally instead of exporting it. We'd bring in ore, start creating Omega. And between the Omega here in the city and the fact that we are doing processors already, we could use some of the processors locally. Whatever processors we don't use, we could export them or use them in the consumer factory. So this city would really start to take off, because what would happen is right now, because we're using processor factories and consumer factories, these numbers, and keep in mind, this is all out of whack because we sent a financial gift to our Omega city. But what would happen is we are spending a lot on Omega and the city specialization, but this Omega profit would start to outweigh. So what we're losing per hour, we would actually make up. So this city would really make quite a substantial profit. But that's really, once again, it's up to what you want to do. It's up to your play style. It's up to what you want to accomplish. But yeah, this second city was really all about going over the process of Omega. So I hope this has been helpful. This has been a lot of fun. We have now two cities that are making really good simoleons. We have more empty city plots, just like the last portion of our tutorial when we were wrapping up our first city. What are some things? What do you have questions about? Do we need to go back to this city and answer some questions? Do we need to answer? Is there something about Omega that I need to answer? What should we cover as we continue on with our beginner's guide to SimCity? I'm happy to answer whatever I can. I'll try my best. But yeah, just let me know. But this has been a lot of fun. Experiment with the different ways of extracting the resources if you want. Experiment with trying to help your city with drones for law, health, and fire. But most importantly, just have fun. So I hope this has been helpful. I've had a lot of fun. We will see you next time. But yeah, let me know what it is that we can cover as we continue our beginner's guide.